Testing, testing. Testing, testing. All right, sorry about that, guys. Just making sure the system was working correctly. Okay, so today we are doing 4-2, which is continuing with the ratios and proportions, and that's just our next step. It's rates and unit rates. Okay, kind of deals a lot more with calculations. I lost my train of thought, but what you do need to do, so to help with those calculations, you get to use a calculator for this section, okay? So that we can make sure we don't get bogged down with the calculations versus the concept that we're trying to learn. So if you don't have a calculator right now, pause it and get you a calculator to be able to use. Speaking of that, let me get my calculator as well. Okay, here we go. So for a rate, the definition of a rate, this is where things are a little different than a ratio, okay? A rate is a form of a ratio. It is a ratio that compares, maybe it's a little bit easier to write on, compares to different, this is where we get into something that's different, to different quantities. An example might be like miles per hour. That's a rate. It's two different things you're talking about. So, and here goes the example. 10 miles, colon, 4 hours. And within a rate, you have a specific type, which is the unit rate. Okay. The big thing with a unit rate is it is a rate with a denominator of 1. Okay. It is a denominator of 1. To change a rate to a unit rate, divide the numerator by the denominator. So we take the bottom and divide it into the top. Okay. All right, so let's work a couple of examples now. Number 1, so we have 364. Again, your word ratio, guys, okay? Right, I can't spell. Right, word ratio. Okay, and then over here, write rates using the symbol, it's the backslash. This is read as per. All right, so here we go. So when we're looking at this, we're going to write 364 miles, and your word ratio can where you do the numbers and the words together if you want. 364 miles to 7 hours. Now, we get to use a calculator, so we've written it before you type it. You always write it before you type it. So now in the calculator, okay, good, you can see the screen. I'm going to just punch in. You type it in exactly like you see it. So it's going to be 364 divided by, there's the backslash symbol, 7, enter. And it gives you a whole number. Sometimes it's going to give you a decimal. We're going to be rounding to the tenths or the hundredths, depending upon, for this, we're going to round to the tenths because it tells me in my directions to round to the tenths place. Unless you're dealing with money or you know that it's something specific in that sense. But even I think if you're dealing with money in this, it has you round it for right now. So this is going to be, because you want to write this as a unit rate and we're rounding to the tenths. So this is going to be 52 miles per hour. This is my answer. And next, we're doing, and you always write your rate as you read it from left to right in this instance right here. Okay. Unless it's something that common sense wise makes sense to flip, which we'll do in the next couple of on the back page. So we have 50 yards in 6.4 seconds. So we now get to use our handy dandy calculator. Now here, if I do 50 divided by 6.4, we're going to be rounding. There's a glare in there. That means instead of using the equal sign, I'm going to use the wavy sign because that means I'm approximating. Okay, it's approximately, and I'm rounding to the 10th place. So that means the 1 behind the 8 tells me I keep it as the 8. So 7.8 yards per second. Okay, and moving right along down here to number 9. There's a glare for me here. Let me see if I can make this. I don't think I can. It's just the way life's going to make it be for me right now. Okay. The table below shows the number of teachers and the number of students of each of 4 middle schools. Which school has the most students per teacher? Well, I've got to figure out what that is. Students per teacher. There's my word ratio. So I'm wanting to do students over teachers. There's my word ratio. So I'm going to set that up and I'm going to figure that out. So I'm going to have 840 over 34, and I'm going to do that in my calculator. This is one of the reasons why we get to use the calculator right now. Make sure that y'all can see. So I'm going to do 840 divided by 34, which gives me 24.7, and that's approximately, so that should be a wavy line. And then I'm going to do that for each one. I'm going to do to where this becomes 675 divided by 40, 604 divided by 31, 578 divided by 28. And when I do that, we end up with 16.9, 19.5, and 20.6. Because remember, you punched it in the calculator exactly like it's written right here. Now, which one is the most? Most is going to be the biggest. So therefore, Edgewood Middle School is my answer. So we would say Edgewood, and we state what it is. 24.7 students per teacher. And there's my answer. Okay, and on the back of this page, go. This is where unit prices give the cost per unit. This is especially helpful when the comparison and shopping in order to find the best deal, which is especially grateful right now when we're all doing Hanukkah shopping. Okay, when finding a unit price, always divide the price by the quantity. No matter the way it's written, you always do the price divided by the number of items. So in this scenario right here, we're going to be doing $9.40, which is my word ratio area, divided by 5 cans. So now I punch this into my handy dandy calculator, and I'm doing 9.4 divided by 5, because 9.4 is the same as 9.5. 9.4 is the same as 9.40, and we end up with exactly $1.88 per can. And our next example. We have a box of 210 tissues for $3.19. Notice the tissues come first, but I'm still wanting to do the price divided by the quantity. So I'm going to do $3.19 divided by 210 tissues. And we punch it in. Clear. Show this. So we have 3.119 divided by 210, which gives me, ooh, remember, I'm rounding to the nearest cent here. So that means it's going to be 2 decimal places. And I have to look here to make sure that I round correctly. So when I'm looking at this, it's 0.015. The 5 is going to cause the 1 to round up. So this is approximately $0.02. So it's 2 cents per tissue. And there's my answer. And last problem. Jumping down to number 21. We're wanting to determine which one is the better deal. Okay, which pretty much means which one's cheaper. All right, so I've got to do each one. So I'm going to do $2.99 divided by 64 crayons. And I'm going to see, what does that equal? 0.99 divided by 64. Curvy bracket, that's going to cause the 6 behind the 4 is going to cause it to round up. So this is about 0.05 per crayon. And then this, I'm doing the 6.99 divided by 120 crayons. So we have 6.99 divided by 120. And that is, because the 8 causes the 5 to round up. So this is about 0.06. This is where you have to pay attention to your rounding, because if you don't, you'll think they're the same. So you've got to pay attention to that. So when I'm looking at this, option A is my better deal because it is a lower cost per crayon. All right, you're to finish the notes and then you do the odds. You're doing the odds in the classwork homework. If you have any questions, make sure that you ask. Have a great day.